Hello, everybody. Once again, this is Fred Wankwa coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on Allen TV. And as usual, I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on wherever you are around the world. This episode that I'm doing is actually an emergency episode. But unfortunately, I had to because I had to speak on this Professor Wole Soyinka discussions that are going on in Nigeria. Can you allow me to begin by saying that Professor Wole Soyinka is one of the Nigerians that I personally respect tremendously. He has served the country very well. With that said, Professor Wole Soyinka in this instance was wrong. But even before I get into that, it's also important for people who don't know history to remember that Professor Wole Soyinka is one of the significant Nigerians that was jailed by Nigeria because of his support for Biafra. A man's life should be measured by his entire record, not by specks here and there. A man like Wole Soyinka, in my opinion, have been in the corridors of power in Nigeria for about 60 years now. If you show me any Nigerian that's been in the corridors of power for 60 years or more, I'll show you somebody who has made one or two mistakes. Professor Wole Soyinka, you don't know me. I've never met you. I am a very big admirer of yours. What Datti Baba-Ahmed said was he took a stand in a situation that finds a conflict between constitutional issues in Nigeria and democratic governance. As you read through the pages that were scrolling below and my voice talking over them, you saw the things that Lai Mohammed has said. You saw the things that Bayo Oyenuga has said about Igbos, about Peter Obi, and the accusations of treason and all that. Professor Soyinka seemed not to find any reason to balance his discussion on Arise TV with criticism of what those APC members are saying. Professor Wole Soyinka also did not think back to 1966 when he walked into a radio station in Ibadan, right or wrong, and held up a radio station, giving them a tape to switch what they were playing with, and insisted that they better play his tape or he'll blow their head away. All I'm saying is we need to be balanced. And I know that you may have spoken in a hurry, but let me play you what Datti Baba-Ahmed said relative to the wrongs that APC has been piling on for the last 8 years. I don't see anything wrong with what Datti said.
It has been signed into law by the President, Commander-in-Chief, Federal Republic of Nigeria. I believe in this document. That is why I'm so lawful. That is why I'm so confident. And that is why, however extreme it is, I am saying it on national TV. I'm not taking any risks. Swearing in a ticket that has not met the constitutional requirements of the Constitution is ending democracy. And I'm repeating it. Whoever does not meet the constitutional requirement must never be sworn in. If you like, I can say it again. I'm Datti Baba-Ahmed. I'm not taking risks with my safety and with my life. But I'm repeating, swear in anybody who does not meet the constitutional requirements of our country. You are engaging in an unconstitutional act. Mr. President, do not hold that inauguration. CJ and your lordship, do not partake in unconstitutionality. I am taking these risks for the sake of my country. Yes, it is extreme and I'm saying it. It was more extreme for Yakubu to issue that certificate. It was reckless. He is putting all our lives in danger. All of us were already at risk. So what is there again in me taking risks again? What have they not done against Nigeria? What have they not abused in Nigeria? Now they will take the constitution, they are going to swear this man in, and I should be afraid? I will not be. I am telling you that on the 29th of May 2023, swear in Tinubu as this result is. You have ended democracy, whoever you are.
Professor Wole Soyinka, this is a good time for you to take a step back and reevaluate the things you said and the positions you took. You and I know that democratic governance in Nigeria has not followed the Constitution of Nigeria. These are the things you have fought in the past. These are things I hoped that you'll continue to fight. In the Arise TV interview, you condemned what Datti Ahmed said as the worst thing you've ever seen said about the Supreme Court in Nigeria, and you more or less referred to the obedience as acting in ways that bordered on fascism. You forget that you were part of NADECO that fought Sani Abacha bravely, and we all supported your fight. And not everything you did in that fight followed the rules, not even in a dictatorship. But your fight was a just fight, and we supported you. Now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who fought with you in NADECO, is the major part of rigging this last election. Everything points in that direction. And what Datti Ahmed is condemning is an election that was disgracefully rigged. The whole world saw it. And there is a possibility that this man who rigged the election, this internationally known drug lord, this man whose certificates are fake, I don't need to go any further because I'll be going down in the dirt, stands a possibility of being sworn in as the president of Nigeria. And yes, I know you condemned the violence in Lagos. Yes, I know you mentioned that you believe the election was rigged, but it shouldn't stop there, Professor Wole Soyinka. You should be more vehement in condemning the rigging of that election, and you should join Datti Ahmed and Peter Obi and the progressives in Nigeria, including Yoruba progressives, who are a major part of the obedient movement. You should join them, as a matter of fact, us, in condemning what happened in those elections and cautioning the Supreme Court and the tribunal based on their antecedents, Professor Wole Soyinka. It is based on the antecedents that Datti Ahmed is sounding the warning that he's sounding, because he knows what the Nigerian courts have done in the past. Let me take a minute, pay some bills, and I'll come back and continue. Folks, if you followed my shows, especially the last 4 or 5 months, you would have noticed that the theme I've always used is that the transparency of the wickedness that is going on in Nigeria is better told from the mouth of everybody else but the Igbo person. Because the doomsday advocates and the divide and conquer advocates would like to paint a picture that the obedient movement is an Igbo movement and that it's a Christian against Muslim movement. Nothing is farther from the truth. And that's why, as I wind down, I'd like to bring in this next guest on Charles Aniagolo's show on Arise TV, so that you could hear the passion with which he talks about the obedient movement. It's about people seeking change. It's about the artist I'm going to show you seeking change for a better Nigeria. It's about Aisha Yusufu from Edo State seeking change for a better Nigeria. It's about displaced farmers and ranchers in northern Nigeria and Benue and Plateau State seeking change. It's about Ijaw people in River State seeking change and the election where they voted for Peter Obi being rigged in daylight. Listen to Falls as he briefly musically describes what happened in the election, but listen to what he said about the election.
It's not. You serve the talk when we protest the shot. Make we carry PVC, make we see what thing goes up. Suddenly, it's kata, area boy, Tijagba, Asole, the Japa, Olokpa, the guy down. You are you, the number, the potter, the shutdown. You drop us, the lamba, somebody.
Falls, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And you have taken to social media to express your dissatisfaction with the emergence of Bola Tinubu as the president-elect. You also said that the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, was not elected but selected himself. Tell us why the process by which they emerged as winners has incurred your displeasure.
To say the least, the rules and regulations that were supposed to guide these elections were not applied, quite simply. The INEC chairman himself, prior to the elections, had come out and released these regulations and said, this is the way we are going to run these elections. And then by the time that these elections were then happening, suddenly, we're seeing this process that is so not transparent and exactly the opposite of what you said it was going to be. And, of course, people are going to raise eyebrows. Of course, everyone is going to be like, what is going on? So, that was pretty much, how it happened. And it was clear from all that there was some foul play involved.
It was clear from what happened that there was some foul play involved. As Americans would jokingly say, Ray Charles could see the foul play, and Stevie Wonder did not have to wonder about what happened and how the election was rigged. I get so filled with joy when I hear these things being said not by Igbo people. And I continue to say, may God continue to bless Nigeria's progressives, especially in the divide and conquer going on in Lagos. May God continue to bless Yoruba progressives. In this ongoing election tribunal tussle between Peter Obi, Datti Ahmed, and Atiku Abubakar on one side, Labour Party and PDP on one side, and APC and Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the other side. Peter Obi, Datti Ahmed, and Atiku Abubakar are on the right side of history. APC and Bola Ahmed Tinubu are on the wrong side of history. I believe I'm a student of history, and I know that history will prove me right. Professor Wole Soyinka has really been a man who had stayed on the right side of history in Nigeria. Professor Wole Soyinka, rethink your position in this matter. I would like you to be on the right side of history, which is where you belong. We shall overcome. Ladies and gentlemen, as usual and as always, this is Fred Nwankwo coming to you from our studios in Chicago with an emergency edition of Bold Talk on Island TV. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday when we'll bring you our studio guests, young Africans from different African countries living in the United States, and talking about their vision for Africa, their problems with Africa, how they wish they can help, how they know they can help, and how they pray for democracy to take hold in our dear continent, in this case, in Nigeria. Good night, and God bless.
If you collect 100 black ants and 100 fire ants and put them in a jar, nothing will happen. But if you take the jar, shake it violently, and leave it on a table, the ants will start killing each other. Red believes the black is the enemy, while black believes the red is the enemy, when the real enemy is the person who shook the jar. The same is true in society. Men versus women, black versus white, faith versus science, young versus old, etc. Before we fight each other, we must ask ourselves, who shook the jar? I'm Mark Twain, also known as Samuel Clemens.